Hi, I'm Vince Vizzacaro, a realtor and team leader with the SuncoastDreams.com team at Fine Properties here in Florida. Starting August 17th of 2024, there was an important change in how buyers work with realtors. Before we can show you a home even virtually, we now need a written buyer's broker agreement. And today, I'll walk you through why it's necessary, why setting it up correctly protects you, the key sections you'll see in the agreement, and when this document might not be required. First of all, why it's necessary. This requirement comes from a nationwide real estate settlement that's all about transparency. For years, it was common for buyers to assume the seller paid all realtor fees. Now, before we start touring homes together, we need to put in writing these following things: the services I'll provide you as your realtor, the compensation we've agreed upon, how any payment from the seller or listing broker will be handled. It's a way to make sure you know exactly what you're getting and what it will cost before you make a move, so there are no surprises. Now, why it's important to set it up correctly. This is a contract. Filling this out correctly ensures you're fully protected and your interests come first. We'll outline the property type and location you're looking for, so you know I'm focused on your goals. We'll lock in the length of our agreement so you're never tied in longer than you want. We'll clearly spell out the compensation, including what happens if the seller is offering to pay part or all of it. And this is a critical point. In practice, most sellers are offering compensation to buyer's agents. And when the amount they offer is greater than or equal to the compensation specified in this agreement, the buyer will not owe the realtor any compensation. When my team and I work with buyers and you have an interest in a home, we find out what the seller or seller's broker is offering in compensation, so you know exactly what the situation is before touring or presenting an offer on the home. Done right, this agreement is your safety net, making sure you have professional representation every step of the way. Now we're going to take a look at the form and walk through the important sections. This is the Exclusive Buyer Brokerage Agreement, more commonly known as the BBA. And I want to talk about the various sections of this agreement and what it means to you, the home buyer. And you may be talking to a realtor who tells you that this is necessary, which it is. But they may also make it sound like it's not a big deal because everybody has to sign one who is going to be touring homes with a realtor. And that aspect is correct with a few exceptions. But the fact that it's not important is incorrect, in my opinion. This is a contract, and there are conditions to it that are important. There are terms to it that are important, and I want to cover what those terms are so you understand it as a home buyer and what it means to you. Now, it is here to protect you. It's also here to define the relationship and the responsibilities between you, the home buyer, and the realtor and brokerage you're working with. So let's start going through the various sections and talk about what these mean. Section 1 is the parties. Home buyer, that's you and anyone you're considering buying a home with. We would want your names here. The second part of that would be your realtor, myself, or a team member would have that. Their name might be here as well, along with the name of the brokerage. This is an exclusive agreement. So that word exclusive is there and it's important. What you don't want to do is work with a realtor, such as myself, sign this BBA, have it ongoing while we're looking at homes. Maybe you visit an open house, you speak with a realtor there who says, hey, there's a home down the road that I think you're going to have an interest in, but I've got to get you to sign a BBA before I can show it to you. That seems harmless. However, it's not. This is an exclusive agreement, and if you have a BBA with one realtor and you sign another BBA with a different realtor, now you've got two agreements for the same purchase of a home, and it could set you up for some liability, such as owing two realtor commissions for one home purchase. And that's something I would say anyone would understand that that's something you want to avoid. So, point being, don't go into the situation where you have two BBAs in place. Where you have some control, and this is important. Number two, the section here is for the term of the agreement. You, first of all, don't want to sign this with a realtor unless you have some trust that that's someone that you want to work with. That trust might be that you know the person already, you have a history with that realtor was referred to you by someone that you trust, or you don't have a good relationship with a realtor and you're basing it on reviews. And if that's the case and you don't have a relationship with a realtor that you trust, I highly encourage you to check reviews. My team and I have a history of all 5-star reviews. We treat our buyers and our sellers the way that we feel like we would want to be treated, and we earn those reviews, and we encourage people to check them. For us, you would go to Google and look up Suncoast Dreams, which is the name of our team. If you're talking to multiple realtors, check everyone's reviews. Ours are outstanding, and we want you to see them. And I hope that you take advantage of that. So the term, again, is a way to define this agreement, and it can be as short as 1 day. It can be as long as you want. These are typically done at 3 months duration, maybe 6 months, however long you anticipate looking for a home. But again, that term should be defined longer if you trust the person, shorter if you're just meeting them and you don't know if you can trust them yet or not. You can do it for 1 day and then for one home to see if you like working with a realtor or not. And that limits your exposure. So then we're going to talk about section 3, which is the property. This type of property here, it can be real property, it can be residential property, it could be commercial property, and then location. And again, location is something that you can use as the consumer in this. And again, we're going to go back to the top, and you, the home buyer, are also called the consumer in this agreement. But the location is another way to help refine this. Say you're looking at homes in Lakewood Ranch, which is, the hub of where my team and I work, but you're also looking at homes in Miami, and that's a place that's out of our location, out of the scope of where we work. So you might want to say, hey, I'll work with your team in Lakewood Ranch, or maybe define this as Manatee or Sarasota County, and have another one of these for a realtor that you want to work with in Miami. So that's a case where you can have two BBAs going on at the same time with two different locations, and it actually makes sense. Totally makes sense to do that. But that's another way to define the scope of how you're going to work with the realtor that you're going into this agreement with. Okay, section 4, broker's obligations. This describes what we as the agent for the broker and the brokerage will do for you, and then also defines a few of the common terms that, as we're looking at homes that are important, such as, fair housing, and what service providers are, and et cetera. Section 5 are the consumer's obligations. And please keep in mind that, again, this is an exclusive agreement, and working together, that you're not working with multiple realtors. That's just another one of those things that is important as far as being a part of this agreement. But it also asks you to do things like being honest with your financial situation, being available at reasonable times to view properties and to discuss, your feelings about those properties. Those are important things in terms of the relationship between you, the home buyer or consumer, and your realtor and brokerage. Moving on, Section 6, a retainer. Now, I don't charge a retainer, and my team doesn't charge a retainer to work with us. I personally believe that you paying upfront for a service that you're not sure yet how successful it's going to be does not make sense. Other realtors may ask you to do that. That would be your decision if you want to enter that agreement with that kind of a situation. But it's not something we ask our consumers or home buyers to do. We work on building trust. We represent you to the best of our abilities at all times. We're highly successful at it, and our reviews demonstrate that. And therefore, we don't need to feel we don't feel like there's a need to charge a retainer to lock you in with a prepayment. And now we're at Section 7, compensation, and this is probably the most important section from a consumer or home buyer's point of view. And there are multiple fields here, but I want to focus on two things. One is the bottom of the paragraph in Section 7 that states compensation received by broker, if any, from an owner or owner's broker for services rendered to consumer will reduce any amount owed by consumer per this paragraph. In other words, stated in more plain language, any compensation offered by the seller or the seller's broker reduces and could eliminate the compensation that the buyer would owe to their agent and brokerage. And that is critical. So now we're going to look at A, and you're seeing in this sample that we've entered 3% of the total purchase price for the property as compensation for the buyer's broker. Now, again, looking above that, if the seller or seller's broker offers 3% to the buyer's broker, and we've got 3% entered here, that means you, the buyer, owe no compensation to your broker, your buyer's broker at all. And that's the goal, frankly, for us as a buyer's agent. We want to make a situation occur that does just that. And then we move on to Section 8, the protection period. This is just the period after the term of the agreement that the realtor is protected should you buy the home. And in terms of, for instance, say it's a realtor that you don't have any trust in yet. You've just met the person. You do a one-day agreement with the BBA. They show you a property. You decide to buy it, but it takes 30 days or 45 days before that property closes. This is a protection period for that realtor to still be compensated under this agreement after the term has expired. Section 9, conditional termination. This is, say you've met a realtor, you've worked with them a little bit, you've decided this isn't a good fit, and you don't want to continue the BBA. This is when you request a termination of the agreement. The broker, the person who runs the brokerage, may agree to that, and that's something that you've got to request and see if they will agree to. Now, again, if you've set this up properly, meaning that you have a term that is something that you prefer. In theory, you should never need this, but if you are in that situation, you definitely want to request termination, and I would speak to the broker yourself and do that. Section 10, dispute resolution. And this is just, say there is a situation that comes up and you decide that, the realtor or the brokerage isn't living up to the terms of their agreement and you've got a dispute. This describes how that can be handled to everyone's satisfaction. And then one more section to cover here, section 12. This is describing the type of relationship you have with the brokerage. And myself and my team, we work as transaction brokers. And this is just telling you that that is the case. Now, there may be other terms that you decide to work with, with your realtor. And then there also is this section 14 that describes acknowledgement, which is modifications. And modifications do come into play sometimes, but that's something that we would talk about on a case-by-case basis. And then it comes down to signing, dating, and then you move forward with touring homes. And that is the BBA. Now let's talk about exceptions to when this agreement may not be required. In most situations, this form is required before touring a home, in person or virtually. Exceptions are rare, but can include 1. Open houses that you visit without your agent present. 2. Brand new construction models where you haven't yet engaged with an agent. 3. Certain commercial and rental property showings. Now, still, in almost every case, having the agreement in place first ensures you're covered. Now, this change is actually a win for buyers. It means we start our relationship with clarity and trust. You know exactly what you're getting, and you have a dedicated advocate on your side throughout the entire process. If you have questions about the Buyers Broker Agreement or want to review a sample before signing it, I'm happy to walk you through it. I'm Vince Fizzicaro with Fine Properties, here to help you find your dream home with transparency and representation that you deserve.